next 1 hour, second batch of Ghanaian students fleeing Russia-Ukraine conflicts returns home.
Reconstructed road opened to traffic in Apiat in the western region weeks after area was destroyed by explosion.
Import duty on used vehicles likely to increase by 20% due to depreciation of the cedi.
And Burkina Faso's junta appoints civilian Albert Ouagadougou as a new transitional prime minister.
Chile can bueno soa, Nejiju I am living at Asisewa, a market day at Asisewa, and I'm representing all the traders and market women of Asisewa. My name is Yochu Mlano.
Nachomina Oyukote Adaficha ne yano ho ye Ghana Broadcasting Corporation Facebook ke a YouTube no Agbene Jonathan Intimda who translates the news into sign language. Let's now settle for the details. African students caught up in the Russia-Ukraine war, including those from Ghana, are being given safe passage by Russia's President Vladimir Putin. The government of Hungary has also expressed willingness to accommodate Ghanaian students studying in Ukraine who are consenting to transfer to Hungary and provide them with assistance.
A Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Kweku Sapon, made this known when he met the second batch of Ghanaian on their arrival at the Kotoka International Airport. The 24 have returned home from Ukraine.
Of returnees were 24 Ghanaian students who were able to cross the border for safety in Poland. 8 of the students paid for their tickets, while the government of Ghana paid for the rest of the 16 returnees. The Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Kweku Sapon, said government has reached agreement with the Russian government for safe passage of Ghanaian nationals from cities such as Sumy and Kharkiv who can't have access to transport to other neighboring countries due to the intensity of the fight in those areas. Mr. Sapon assured returnees that government has engaged the Ghana Psychological Council to provide psychological support to them.
All Ghanaians do share the difficult times that we've been through. And I hope that in good time, it's going to be possible for you to pull yourself together and maybe go back to continue your education. We have also made arrangements with the Ghana Psychological Society. Having gone through some of these things, maybe you might need some counseling or some advice or some direction.
One of the returnees, a level 500 medical student, expressed gratitude to the government for facilitating their movement out of Ukraine as they recounted their experiences with racism at the borders.
We just went there for our education, 6 years of medicine, Corona came in, and now there is a war. We are thinking about how to move forward, and everything is bringing us back. So this time around, I'm really happy the government stepped in to do something for us in this very difficult time. And I also like to thank them for being help us psychologically, because it's not just about coming home. Our psychological health is also very important to us, because now we are home and we are almost experiencing PTSD because there is a lot going on. People are dying, people are helpless, people have nowhere to go. We lost everything. We could barely pack anything because I remember we were going to the train. We had kids with us. We couldn't even take our bag. They were stepping our bags. They were pushing us away. People are really being racist against our color, and it's very bad to us.
A first batch of 17 Ghanaians returned on Tuesday, March 1. More Ghanaian students are expected to arrive on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
The Apiate section of the Bogo Suwasa highway, which was destroyed during the Apiate explosion, has been fixed and open to traffic.
People died, many others were injured, and an entire settlement was destroyed in the explosion that occurred at Apiate on January 20th. The disaster left in its wake a crater of 20 meters long and 10.3 meters wide in the middle of the highway. This initially posed a challenge to motorists as the diversion created was difficult for haulage trucks to use. The Ministry of Roads and Highways subsequently engaged MS Rangel Gabriel Kuoto Consortium, the contractor on the Takwa Agona Nkwanta Road project, to fix the affected portion of the Bogo Suwasa Ikropon Highway. The project is 84% complete. Though not fully done, the volume of traffic on the highway and the struggle that motorists were going through compelled the Ministry of Roads and Highways to open the road. The Deputy Minister, Madame Mavis Nkansa Buedu, said the road was safe to use.
We are going to plead with them that they can see that work is still ongoing, so they should take their time when plying the road to ensure that we do not actually, another casualty does not happen on this stretch.
The Western Regional Minister, Mr. Kwabna Otrida Kumensa, mentioned that the construction of the destroyed settlement is next on government's priority list.
Today, you can see that the carpenters are also working on the building for the temporary structures. Very soon, the permanent structures will also start with a fully developed community. We are not just building, we want to develop this community as a model for the country.
Some drivers who plied the route commended the government for the swift manner in which the road was fixed.
Now, programs heralding Ghana's 65th Independence Day include Muslim Friday prayers. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, was at the Juma, where Muslim faithful prayed for the country for peace and development. Muslims congregate for the Friday midday prayer time. This prayer is mandatory for all Muslims across the world. Muslims believe Friday was chosen by Allah as a dedicated day of worship. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, joined the congregation at the National Mosque at Kanda in Accra to pray for the nation ahead of Independence Day. For the Vice President, God has been good to Ghana in the past 65 years, and there is a lot to thank God for and for how far He has brought the country. There were special prayers for the nation, especially for God's intervention in the running of the country in an era of global economic difficulties. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia requested for prayers for the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and for Allah's protection at the helm of the nation's administration. They prayed for God's strength and wisdom to carry his mandate successfully. He also requested the congregation to pray for the Christian community for peace, unity, and cordiality with other religious sects. They also prayed for Muslims for peace and development in Zango communities. Dr. Bawumia made a cash donation to the Chief Imam, Mosque Committee, and the Council of Zango Chiefs.
Women involved in the technical and vocational education and training have met in Accra to deliberate on how to get more women to pursue careers in male-dominated or non-traditional vocational education and skills training. The objective is to develop the requisite human capital to meet the growing demands in the industry, boost the economic gains of the women, and enhance their livelihoods. A report by Sarah Ofori.
Construction, welding, electronics, mechanics, and other repair works are a few male-dominated non-traditional vocations. In these fields, females remain underrepresented, with just about 5% participating in the industry. This is due to gender inequalities and stereotyping. They are also said to be discriminated against. These young women are also discouraged by their families from pursuing technical vocational education and training-related vocations. Meanwhile, these vocations create opportunities for poverty reduction by improving incomes of families. The forum therefore brought together the women in TVET to collaborate for greater impact.
The Women in TVET conference to encourage women to show interest and participate in male-dominated trades, challenge gender stereotypes and other limitations young women are facing in terms of occupational and professional advancement.
The Deputy Minister for Education in charge of TVET, Ms. Gloria Chum Ampofo, said females can thrive in non-traditional technical vocations when the barriers impeding their success and safety are removed.
Gender-based barriers such as negative perception of women in TVET, stereotyping, name-calling and bullying towards women pursuing male-dominated traits has been identified and are being addressed by the Act.
The World University Service of Canada has collaborated with government to provide training and access to decent work for 5,000 women in selected regions.
The business development support services that we give to these young people will be able to equip them to be able to run their own businesses. So it's not a matter of, okay, we are training you and unleashing you into the world and you are on your own. We are looking at what are the foundational challenges that you face to make sure that when you are given training or any type of support, you'll be able to thrive without a project.
To attract the youth to TVET, institutions under Ghana TVET service have been included in the computerized school selection and placement system for selection by junior high school graduates next academic year. The students will then benefit from the free SHS program.
Selected emergency responders in the Bono East, Bono, Savannah and Ahafo regions have received training in mental health and psychosocial support in Kintampo in the Bono East region. The Ghana Health Service encouraged health practitioners to help persons living with various forms of mental health conditions to rediscover themselves through extensive psychosocial support. For the participants, creating a disability-inclusive health system and providing basic mental health and psychosocial support was critical in reducing stigma and making quality health care available to all.
Mental health and psychosocial support (MHPSS) includes any support to protect or promote people's mental health and psychosocial well-being. One major component of MHPSS is treatment and prevention of psychiatric disorders such as depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). Participants called on the government to invest more in mental health to support improved access to psychotropic medicines and strengthen governance and accountability measures. They also suggested to the government to include mental health in the National Health Insurance Benefits Package. A psychiatrist at the Pantine Hospital, Dr. Adra Kusitre, also stressed the need for more investment in mental health and psychosocial support.
Fortunately, when it comes to the provision of psychosocial support, you don't need to be a specialist, a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. Just with minimal training and with preparedness.
In an interview with GBC News, a psychiatrist and psychologist at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Richard Daya Samoa, called on the government to train more health workers, volunteers and emergency responders to handle mental health-related issues. Many say COVID-19 has made the world more fragile, with more inequalities in human development, including a higher incidence of mental health disorders, as well as emotional challenges, while disrupting the already inadequate mental health services in many parts of the world, including Ghana.
The Ghana Psychology Council has officially updated its risk field and practice 479 newly qualified licensed professionals, paraprofessionals, and lay practitioners in various
Thanks for staying on. The Ghana Psychology Council has officially admitted into its fold and practice 479 newly qualified licensed professionals, the only body mandated by law to regulate the profession and practice of applied psychology to ensure professionalism among practitioners while protecting patients.
Professionals inducted included 15 clinical psychologists, 1 psychoanalyst, 1 special educationist, 40 pastoral counselors, 422 lay counselors, and 2 psychologist assistants.
Paraprofessionals who may have other backgrounds in addition to applied psychology course, mainly counseling, and lay practitioners who also have at least 1 year training.
The Deputy Minister for Health, Mr. Mahama Asseini, applauded the inductees and said the ministry appreciates the prompt manner in which psychologists are hit by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The role psychologists and counselors play in Ghana and across the world cannot be overemphasized. The ministry appreciates the prompt response psychologists and counselors mobilize themselves to provide psychological service to help workers and infected and affected persons when they were contacted on a very short notice. The interventions provided and are still providing helped ease the stresses, fear, anxieties associated with the disease.
Swearing them on oath, the recent past chairperson of the council and head of Department of Psychiatry, Professor Angelo Furiata, encouraged the inductees to work within their mandate and acquire the requisite skills and knowledge. Speaking to GBC News, she said without the license or a master's degree in psychology, one does not qualify to be a psychologist or counselor. She entreated the inductees to love and care for their patients.
There are some things you cannot do, like stand there and call yourself a psychologist when you don't have a master's in psychology, or call yourself a counselor when you haven't fulfilled the rules laid down by the law. So we have to stay within the law. Apart from the legal things, keep your heart soft for your patients. Love and care for your patients.
Certificates were presented to the inductees. They were reminded of the need to work within the standards of the profession.
Private developers at Dunkornofin have taken over the stretch of land along the railway line at Dunkornofin in the central region. The Dunkwahene Okofrebo Obenyuako is worried about the situation and has called on the Ministry of Railway Development to investigate their permit to build on the land.
Both permanent and temporary structures have been built along the Dunkwa barrier, Sofokrom, Chechere Station and the Accra town stretch of the railway line in Dunkwa on Ofeng. Despite attempts over the years by the authorities to stop the construction, the encroachers continue to build. The Dunkwahene Okofrobo Obenyuako claimed the encroachers have no permit and called on the Minister for Railways Development to investigate the matter. On the fire outbreak which occurred at the lorry station in the month of February, Okofrobo Obenyuako advised the community members to engage qualified electricians and buy quality materials when wiring their homes to avoid such incidents.
Welcome back. Ever heard of acheke or even had a taste of it? Do you know what goes into the preparation of this finger-licking dish? James News takes you along the western coastline from Accra to Yinase and AB Bokazo, two communities in the Lebede district of the western region, where acheke remains a favorite and features prominently on menus in restaurants and possibly daily in homes.
Atieke, ajeke, ajeke, acheke. However you call it, it's a traditional Ghanaian meal loved by many and is popular with the people of Ghana's western region, especially the Nzimas. For this day, if you are in Nzima and you don't eat acheke, then you're not a true-blooded Nzima. Acheke is eaten for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even at midnight. Its accompaniment is soup or stew, but has gained popularity with grilled tilapia, fried fish, meat or grilled chicken. To begin with, the cassava is peeled, grated and kept in jerry cans and bowls and moistened with lots of water for properly wet grains. After that, the cassava pulp is kept for 3 days for fermentation. The cassava pulp has to be fermented because it is from there that one gets the real taste of the acheke. It also brings out the sweetness of the cassava. The cassava is now transferred into sacks, which are tied and kept under this machine, which presses out all the excess water and also removes starch. The cassava pulp is later processed manually by sieving and rubbing in circular motion in the palms to create smooth round grains, after which it is dried in the sun for about an hour. At this stage, the acheke is steamed under medium heat on fire for between 5 and 7 minutes. Some salt is then added for taste. This is the final product of acheke, ready for the tongue and for sale.
Want me to say something?
No. I'm going to give you a narration.
Also, they are appealing to the government for assistance to deal with some of their problems.
We
offer community deliveries, regional and even across borders. We make lots of sales daily, but we need well-structured markets to boost business growth.
Marketing is rotaya is a we
get stranded during rainy season.
I love acheke that is mixed with palm oil. That is why I have traveled all the way from my town to buy it.
Business entertainment, sports news man.
Good evening, we do business now. My name is Morris Ogbetina. Liquefied gas is now 9.76 pesos per kilogram. This translates into about 140 cedis for a 14.5 kilogram cylinder. In an earlier interview, we spoke to a research analyst from the Institute of Energy Security, Mr. Fritz Moses, who said the depreciation of the cedi is a major factor to the price hike in gas.
Interesting, because from just last week, Saturday, to the end of yesterday, the prices about the cedi had depreciated by some 4.3%. Now, that aside, on the international market where we take it by LPG from, they had risen by some close to 15%. And so, I mean, we cannot imagine what the next increment in the pricing window would be from the second half of March.
Right.
It's very substantial. And so, calling for government to remove taxes on the price of it's a call in the right order. Fortunately for gas, there's several taxes in the petrol and diesel. It's not the same for it. We have just about 7 tax components in the price order. That makes up for close to 2 cities, 41 pesos in the price.
And the cost of importation of used vehicles is set to rise by 20% this month. This follows a 20% reduction in the discount offered the importation of vehicles. Now, Chief Executive of Irata Motors, Edikusi Amanko, has told GBC News the free fall of the cedi even worsens the situation.
For instance, if you are paying a duty of maybe 100,000 and the government have, because of 50%, you are paying 50,000. Now, instead of paying 100,000 full, you are going to pay 70,000. That's the principle. If you pay 100,000, the government gave you 50 free. Now he's saying that the 50 that he gave you free, just pay additional 20 and get your goods. But for cars, he gave us 30% on cars. So when you have to pay, there's 100,000 on a car, and he said, okay, pay 70. Now he's saying the 100,000 you're paying for car, pay 90. So now that they have introduced the 50%, the 30 coming, 20 coming back, customers will feel it more, because in the nutshell, don't forget that our dollar and the cedi rate is so high. Beginning of the year, we have cedi to dollar was about 6, and now within just 2 months, we have dollar up to.
Still in business, JP Morgan estimates that 66% of Russian oil is struggling to find buyers, and that crude prices could reach $185 by the end of the year if Russian oil remains disrupted. This could be the worst crisis since the Arab oil embargo and the Iranian Revolution in the 1970s. Both events were major oil shocks in that particular decade.
3. Middle Eastern oil producers cut off supply from the U.S. and other Western countries in retaliation for assisting Israel during the Arab-Israeli war that year. Oil was immediately in short supply, and Americans lined up at gas stations to buy skyrocketing gasoline. The other shock was the result of the 1978 to 1979 Iran Revolution, which led to the overthrow of the Shah of Iran. Oil majors like BP and ExxonMobil have said they are exiting Russian ventures. The price of Russia's Urals crude has fallen sharply compared with the international benchmark Brent crude. Analysts say what they haven't seen before is the big reputational issue, as well as companies not wanting to do business with Russia. Oil companies are giving up major investments where they may have spent years developing operations and employed hundreds of people in Russia. However, the disruption is coming when the market is already tightly supplied. OPEC Plus, an alliance between OPEC, Russia and others, decided Wednesday to continue their current production plans. They are returning about 400,000 barrels a day to the market each month until they reach their targets in June. Also adding to the pain for Russia's customers has been the spike in European natural gas prices. Europe is the biggest customer for both Russian oil and gas. Oil prices were already rising when Russia rolled its tanks into Ukraine last Thursday. Brent was trading above $160 per barrel Thursday before backing off amid speculation that Iran may be ready to re-enter its nuclear deal. That could bring 1 million barrels of Iranian oil back to the market.
Let's go to the interbank Forex market, where a dollar is now trading at 7 cedis. The pound sterling is going for 9 cedis, 35 pesos, and the euro at 7 cedis, 74 pesos. On the international commodities market, we also see the price of crude oil still going up, and that means that fuel at the pump will continue to go up. MTN and Quick Credit.
Omambi Mimbanyade Omanye Inke Energy share more eba. The need for Ghana to increase renewable energy in the national energy generation mix is a topical decision. Speaking to GBC News, the Director of Renewable Energy Association of Ghana, Mr. Enoch Ajapong, says harnessing the potential of renewable energy sources will create job opportunities and enhance overall power generation.
The fact that Ghana, being in the sub-region, had this framework first. The first is not the only thing we are looking for. We are looking for it to be sort of harnessing the potential of developing renewable energy technologies. And definitely Ghana having the possibility of having the Akosombo Dam, which by all intents and purposes is renewable for what you would consider it. You can then say that our renewable energy portfolio in Ghana could be classified as very big, even against the 1 to 3% or 4% that we seem to have clogged in terms of having RE into the generation mix. But I think the core concern that industry has had is how do we ensure that other forms of renewable energy technologies, putting the hydro aside and saying that's a legacy hydro, how do we have all the other forms of renewable energy technologies to have a huge uptake such that it balances off? Because you can have jobs created when you have a lot of people moving into those other.
The team soliciting stakeholder inputs into the National Energy Transition Plan has visited Takoradi to engage residents. Participants at the forum with the theme Moving Ghana to a Net Zero Future welcomed government's decision to gradually transit from fossil fuel-based energy to renewable energy.
Many countries are making efforts to transit from the use of high carbon emitting energy sources to cleaner energy sources with the ultimate goal of attaining the net zero target. In Ghana, almost 7% of the installed power generation is from thermal plants which use natural gas. The National Energy Transition Forum is aimed at collating inputs from key stakeholders towards the implementation of a harmonious national energy policy in line with the Paris Accord. Addressing the forum, the Western Regional Minister, Mr. Kwabna Otreda Kumensa, said Ghana's transition plan should position the oil and gas industry to play a more significant role in national development efforts.
Ghana's transition plan should therefore seek to position the oil and gas industry to play a more significant role in the development of the current country now, before we set off in the energy transition period. The Western region, as you all know, is a major producer and contributor of oil and gas and should be given a larger concentration of the new changes that might come.
A Deputy Minister of Transport, Mr. Frederick Adom Obeng, said an e-mobility policy is being developed to guide the deployment of electric vehicles in the country, all geared towards the reduction in the use of fossil fuels. Deputy Energy Minister Mr. Andrew Japamesa said government has resolved that in the interim, fossil fuels, particularly natural gas, will continue to be part of the country's energy mix, while strategies are put in place to increase renewable energy in the medium to long term.
To achieve the energy transition target of net zero, we need to find a balance between renewable and fossil fuel investment, at least in the short to medium term. Whilst the need to decarbonize our economy is well recognized, the cost of stranded assets will be too huge to bear. In that regard, fuel stations and combustible engine cars cannot be abandoned in the short to medium term. Government will therefore revitalize the thermal oil refinery to meet our domestic demand and reduce our dependence on imported petroleum products, thereby guaranteeing fuel security in the country.
Mambi wake energy share more ebanagbe. Acho mi na adoko ana. Chao ni umanya blao.
Time now for health, brought to you by Lufat, Tobingo's premium gift to Africa. Now, the Asante Achim North Municipality Health Directorate in the Ashanti region recorded 4 maternal deaths in 2021 at the annual performance review meeting. The Municipal Health Director, Mr. Ronald Welgamia, said the deaths recorded were the after effect of self-medication, particularly consumption of concoctions. He therefore cautioned pregnant women to desist from such practices and regularly attend antenatal clinics for safety delivery.
The review meeting of the Health Directorate was to assess the performance of the Directorate and strategize to improve output. Issues that dominated discussions included inadequate logistics, delays in NHIS disbursement, high neonatal deaths, and poor road network to health facilities within the municipality. The District Director of Health Services, Mr. Ronald Welgamia, cautioned pregnant women against consuming unapproved herbal medicines during pregnancy and lactation.
The best place to go to is a health facility. Relating to pregnancy, and that is even safe. Rather than say, now you don't even know the content of what you are taking at the end of the day. And the more your toxicity levels, time be mounted so high in your system to the extent that when we say on feel comfortable, and that is what causes this termination of pregnancy.
Mr. Mia said the Directorate has intensified community health outreach in the municipality. The meeting was on the theme Continuity of Health Services in the Midst of COVID-19, the role of the health worker.
And management of the Agogo Presbyterian Hospital in the Asante Achim North Municipality wants the facility to be upgraded into a secondary status. According to management, the hospital received a secondary health facility certificate from the Health Facilities Regulatory Agency, HEFRA, in 2019, but the hospital is still considered a primary facility, a situation that affects its revenue generation.
Apart from the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, the Agogo Presbyterian Hospital, built in March 1931, is the second major referral health facility in the Ashanti region and the oldest mission hospital in Ghana. At its 2021 annual performance review meeting, the acting medical administrator and head of pediatric and child health directorate at the Agogo Presbyterian Hospital, Dr. Mamefre Makoto Moti, appealed to the government to replace some of the obsolete equipment, particularly the X-ray machine at the hospital, for effective healthcare delivery.
The management has done a lot to improve the current state of the machine. Obviously, we need a new one. So just as I talk right now, we want to plead any benevolent persons and philanthropists, we want to plead with you to come to our aid.
Dr. Mamefre Makoto Moti said even though the hospital has a lot of specialists and renders most critical services, it is unable to generate enough revenue for its operations.
And that's it for the health segment, brought to you by Lufat, Tobingo's premium gift to Africa. I now hand you over to Clara for more stories.
Now, a Ghanaian fintech company, ZPay, in partnership with the Barbados-based Global Integrated Fintech Solutions, has launched ZMoney. ZMoney will make it easier for Caribbean diaspora to remit money back home digitally from the 200 corridors to mobile wallets, bank accounts, and Visa MasterCards.
ZMoney is a sub-digital brand of ZPay with a registered presence in Grenada, Jamaica, Guyana, and Barbados. ZMoney is positioned to act as a bridge between Africa and the Caribbean by making it easier for individuals to receive and send funds to friends and family abroad across 200 corridors globally. Currently, Barbados alone receives about $260 million anticipated growth through this arrangement with ZPay. To this end, ZMoney, ahead of its operations in Barbados, has started recruitment of local staff. The first staff from the region, Kenisha Shakira Connell, is currently in Accra to start training ahead of starting operations in Barbados. During her time at the ZPay campus in Accra, she'll be exposed to the operations of ZPay to enable her to support the operations in the Caribbean market.
She'll be here for a 3-month. Accra is our hub. We're an international global company, but Accra will always be our hub as we're a Ghanaian, wholly Ghanaian-owned company. And so she'll be here for 3 months to do a training before we start operations in Barbados.
The managing director of ZPay, Mr. Andrew Techiapia, said the strategy of ZPay's operations in the Caribbean is to hire local staff by harnessing local talent and ensuring that the business remains local. ZMoney will open Barbados for ease of receipt of international remittances and help improve last-mile access, evidenced in the long queue experienced during collection.